Welcome to Love Lies Chronicles.
I'd really appreciate your comment. It helps me understand if you enjoyed the story and how I can improve in future ones. I was home by 7:10 on a Tuesday. My name is Daniel Mercer, 38, logistics manager in Dallas. The day had been routine. Vendor calls in the morning, doc scheduling after lunch, a short detour to pick up dry cleaning. I parked, carried the shirts upstairs, and set my keys in the bowl by the door. She was on the couch with her legs tucked under a throw, phone in her hand, screen brightness lighting her face. I said hello. She hummed without looking up. I took that as a signal to keep the evening simple. I opened the fridge. Leftover roast chicken, a tub of rice, half a head of lettuce. I leaned back into the living room and asked if she wanted dinner together. No big preface, no request for anything special. Want me to cook something or order takeout? I kept my voice even. I wasn't hungry yet. I just wanted to align plans. She still didn't look up. Feed yourself. I'm not your mother. The words came out flat and fast. I stood there for a second, then nodded. I put the chicken on a plate, microwaved it, and sliced the lettuce. I ate at the counter. The television played a show I didn't recognize. She laughed at something on her phone. Neither of us said another word. I rinsed my plate, wiped the counter, and put the dish in the rack. I didn't ask for an explanation or try to correct the tone. I went to the bedroom and changed into a t-shirt. She stayed in the living room. The house felt orderly. Clean floors, folded laundry, the faint smell of detergent from the weekend. It also felt separate. I answered 2 emails from a shipper in Laredo and scheduled a call for the morning. Around 9, I tried again with something neutral. I asked what her plan was for the weekend. Not sure, she said. I said I might swing by the range on Saturday. No response. The distance wasn't new, but the line about not being my mother clarified things. It put a label on what had been slowly forming, a refusal to meet halfway on small, ordinary parts of a shared life. I took a shower and went to bed early. She came in after midnight and set her phone on the nightstand with the screen face down. The alarm on my side buzzed at 6. I made coffee, packed a lunch, and left a note that said, "Have a good day." The note stayed on the counter when I returned that evening. Wednesday and Thursday ran on schedule at work. Freight inbound numbers were normal, and a warehouse audit wrapped without issues. At home, the pattern held. Short answers. Eyes on the phone. No interest in joint plans. I stopped suggesting dinner times and started making single-person meals I could heat and eat in 10 minutes. I went to the gym after work and added 10 minutes to my usual routine. I slept well. Small details stood out. Her phone had a new lock screen sound. She turned it over whenever she set it down. There were new contacts in her favorites list I didn't recognize. She started keeping a tote bag by the door, as if she wanted the option to leave without gathering anything. None of it was dramatic. It was just a different arrangement of the same room. Friday morning, I adjusted a few things that were mine to adjust. I cleaned out my work bag and put my passport and social security card in the home safe. I set my brother as my emergency contact on a couple of forms where she had been listed. I made a dental appointment I'd been putting off. I booked an oil change for my car. No announcements, just maintenance. I also stopped filling gaps that didn't need to be mine. She had a package arrive. I left it where the carrier placed it. She asked if I had seen her charger. I said it was probably where she last used it. I simply matched the level of engagement she had established. My voice stayed even. My face stayed neutral. The house stayed quiet. By the weekend, I understood the shape of the issue. It wasn't about food, or chores, or one sharp sentence. It was about a shift in how she framed us. She had moved me out of the column labeled partner and into a separate column labeled self-sufficient adult who should manage everything without expecting coordination. I was fine being self-sufficient. I had been self-sufficient before we met. What I wasn't fine with was being treated like a dependent when it was convenient and a ghost when it wasn't. Saturday morning, I changed the mower blade and edged the yard. I sorted the garage shelves and hauled a box to donation. I cooked eggs and toast for one. I sent my mother a text with a photo of the front flower bed to show the new mulch. I didn't tell her anything else. I don't run my marriage through other people. In the afternoon, I sat at the dining table and went over our monthly budget. Nothing surprising on the statements. I noted the usual subscriptions and flagged a couple of duplicate services I could cancel on my side. I checked the calendar on the fridge. Our anniversary dinner from last year was still magneted there on an old paper reservation slip. I left it. It was just paper. She was in and out. A coffee run in the morning. A nail appointment after lunch. A stop at her friend's place around 4. She didn't invite me along or ask about my plans. I didn't ask about hers. The house continued to run because I kept doing what I always do. Trash out on time, bills paid, sink cleared each night, doors locked before bed. The basics don't stop because the mood is off. We crossed paths in the kitchen around 7. She warmed up soup and ate it standing, scrolling her phone between bites. I poured water and stepped aside. She mentioned that her mother wanted to schedule a Sunday call. I said that was fine. She nodded and went back to her screen. That night, I laid out clothes for Monday and set my alarm. I put my gym shoes by the door. I deleted a couple of old photos from my phone that added nothing to the present. I checked my bank balance, set a reminder to move a small amount into savings on the 1st, and turned out the light. When she came to bed, she kept to her side. I kept to mine. Sunday morning, I made coffee and read a few reports from an industry bulletin. She came out around 11, took a cup, and said she had errands. I told her I'd be around most of the day. She left. I did laundry, folded towels, and put on a game in the background. I sent my brother a short message about a possible fishing trip. He said he was in. I added a date to my calendar. By Sunday evening, the week had delivered all the information I needed. I knew how she planned to speak to me. I knew how much effort she wanted to put into basic coordination. I knew my own threshold for disrespect. I didn't need a confrontation to prove a point. I needed a clear mind. I set out 2 plates at the counter and then put 1 back in the cabinet. I cooked a simple dinner and ate it. I washed the pan, wiped the stovetop, and closed the dishwasher. I set my alarm for 5:30. The plan was simple: hold my line, protect my time, and stop volunteering for roles that no one respects. The week had started with a sentence. It ended with a decision. I would match words with structure, not emotion. Monday followed the same quiet pattern I set at the end of last week. I left before sunrise, answered emails in the parking lot, and ran the morning briefing on time. When I got home, I cooked a simple dinner for 1 and cleaned up. She walked in late, placed her bag by the couch, and kept her eyes on her phone. I said hello. She nodded without raising her head. On Tuesday, I tried a straightforward check-in. I asked if she wanted to set a plan for Saturday since my brother and I were looking at dates for fishing. "Stop locking me into things," she said. Her arms stayed folded. I told her I was asking, not deciding. "Same thing with you," she replied, and went back to scrolling. I noted the answer, the tone, and the posture. The next day, I aimed lower. I asked if she needed me to pick up anything specific at the store. "You always buy the wrong stuff," she said. I asked for an example so I could correct it. She shook her head and said she didn't have time to explain preferences I should already know. I bought my list and nothing extra. At dinner, she microwaved a separate meal and ate in the living room. Thursday morning, I asked directly, "What's going on?" She shrugged. "Nothing." I kept my voice even. "Your answers are short. Our time together is shorter. If something's wrong, say so." She said I was reading too much into normal life and that I should stop making everything about feelings. I said I was asking for facts. She said she had work. The door closed behind her. That evening, she mentioned her mother had thoughts about our schedule. I asked for specifics. She said her mother thought we didn't need to eat together every night and that adults should keep their own routines. I said we already did that on most weekdays. She said I was missing the point. I heard the source and the message. Small changes continued. She set new passcodes on shared apps and said it was for privacy. I said nothing and canceled the streaming account tied to my card. She posted more photos from coffee shops and added captions about independence and growth. I didn't comment. I increased my gym time by 10 minutes and moved on to other tasks when I got home. The house stayed orderly because I kept it that way. Friday, she stood in the kitchen while I packed my lunch for the next day's early shift. She watched me make a sandwich and then said, "You know, I don't have to do anything for you." I looked up. "You've made that clear." She waited, maybe for an argument. I zipped the bag and put it in the fridge. She left the room. Saturday morning, I mowed the yard, trimmed the hedges, and stacked the clippings. She came outside as I was sweeping the walkway. "Are you done making noise?" she asked. I checked the time and said I was finishing. She said she needed quiet to record something on her phone. I said I'd be inside in 5 minutes. She rolled her eyes and went back in. I finished in 3. At lunch, I asked again, calmly, "Is there someone else, or is this just about space?" She looked at me like I'd insulted her. "Don't be dramatic." I said I was not dramatic. I was being clear. She said if I kept pressing, she would leave for the day. I told her she could make any choice she wanted. She took her bag and left without saying where she was going. She came back after dark and didn't speak. The next morning, she acted as if the prior day never happened. She moved around the kitchen, made coffee for herself, and left the empty pot on the burner. I brewed my own. When I asked if she wanted to schedule time to go through the guest room, she said I was obsessed with tasks and that I should learn to let things sit. I said I'd let her items sit and would handle only mine. Monday at work, I cleared out old meeting invites that no longer applied because she had stopped participating in shared plans. At home that night, she stood in the doorway and watched me take out the trash. "You're acting different," she said. I said I was adjusting to the standard she set. She said I was being petty. I said I was being precise. She didn't like the word and walked away. Tuesday, she staged comments within range of my hearing. On a call with a friend, she said I needed too much attention and that she was exhausted by constant demands. I was in the dining room reconciling receipts. I didn't interrupt or correct her. After the call, she asked why I'd been so quiet. I said I was working. She said I was cold. I said I was steady. The next day, she sent a midday text. "Don't forget to pick up toilet paper." I had no plan to stop at the store and didn't reply while I was in a meeting. When I got home, she asked where it was. I said I hadn't gone to the store and that if she needed something, she could either add it to the shared list by morning or buy it on her way home. She called that an unhelpful answer. I said it was a boundary. Thursday evening, she tested another angle. "We never go anywhere anymore." I reminded her I had suggested dinner twice in the last 10 days and that she had declined both times. She said the timing wasn't right and that I should be more flexible. I said I was available on Friday or Saturday and could take the first open reservation at a nearby place. She said she didn't want to plan anything and that planning killed the mood. I said unplanned evenings were available any night she initiated. She didn't respond. Later that night, she stood in the hallway and said, "You make me feel cornered." I asked how. She said by asking questions. I said questions were how people coordinate. She said I should trust her to manage her life. I said I did, and I was doing the same with mine. She stared at me, then went to bed without another word. Friday afternoon, the pivot arrived. She walked into the kitchen, opened her wallet, and said, "Do you have gas money? I'm low." A simple expectation that I would solve the problem without discussion. I looked at her. The lines from earlier in the week lined up cleanly in my mind. Not your mother, not your maid. Don't plan, don't ask. Handle it yourself unless it benefits me. I kept my voice level. Fill it yourself. I'm not your father. She blinked and stayed still, as if processing the exact phrasing. The silence lasted several seconds. "Are you serious?" she asked. "Yes." She waited for a soft landing I wasn't offering anymore. "You're really going to be like this over gas?" I said I was applying the same rule she stated to me about dinner, errands, and plans. She said I was being cruel. I said I was being consistent. She turned away and stood at the sink with her hands on the counter. She took her keys and left. I wrote the time on a notepad out of habit. I put my phone on the table and checked a few work messages. 20 minutes later, a text came through. "Forget it." I left it unread and returned to the report I was drafting. I wasn't angry. I was clear. That night, she was quiet. She cooked for herself, loaded only her dishes, and sat on the couch with the volume up. I read in the bedroom and set my alarm. Before lights out, she stood in the doorway and asked, "Is this how it's going to be now?" I said, "If disrespect continues, yes." She didn't answer. She closed the door and slept on her side of the bed without another word. I slept well and woke before the alarm. The pressure had reached a point where words alone no longer shifted anything. She had wanted distance and autonomy without responsibility. My response matched her framework. The exchange over gas settled the question for me. She wanted independence with no coordination. Fine. I built a plan that gave her exactly that, without hostility, without games, and without hidden work from my side. On Saturday morning, I sent a short email to the shared address we use for bills. Subject, house operations. For bullet points. First, starting immediately, each person pays for the items they use. Second, any optional subscriptions tied to my cards would be canceled by Sunday night unless she chose to move them to hers. Third, household tasks would be split on a fixed schedule posted on the fridge with no reminders. Fourth, if either person wanted joint time, They would propose it 48 hours in advance with a clear start and end. I printed the same list, taped it under the calendar, and left for the gym. By noon, I'd moved all autopays for my phone, car insurance, and professional tools to my individual account. I removed my card from shared shopping apps. I downgraded the streaming package to a single user and placed it on my TV only. If she wanted her own, she could add one to her card. I updated passwords on the items I personally fund. Nothing hidden. I put a copy of the bullet list on the desk and went on with my day. She saw the printed list when she came into the kitchen. "What is this?" "Exactly what it says," I replied. "You asked for independence. I'm respecting that. So we're roommates now? We're adults who keep agreements. This makes the agreements clear." She stood there for a few seconds, then folded the paper and set it back down. No discussion about the content, only the label. That told me enough. In the afternoon, I reorganized my closet and laundry routine. My basket, my detergent, my cycle. Her clothes stayed where she left them. I set my shelf in the fridge with labeled containers. I didn't touch hers. If an item crossed shelves, I slid it back. At 5, she texted, "Can you grab my dry cleaning? I'm stuck." I answered, "I'm not near the shop. You can call for delivery." She replied with, "It closes soon," followed by nothing. I didn't leave the house. She picked it up the next morning and did not mention it. Sunday evening, I proposed a test week to confirm the system. 7 days, I said at the counter. "You handle your needs. I handle mine. If either of us wants time together, propose it 2 days ahead. If we both agree, we do it. If not, we don't." She said it sounded sterile. I said it sounded accurate. She didn't accept or reject it. I treated that as acceptance. On Monday, she tried a softer version of the prior pattern. "I thought you were making dinner tonight." I said I was making my dinner. I offered half my chicken if she wanted to transfer the cost in the budget app. She stared at me like I was speaking another language. "Forget it," she said, and ordered food. I ate mine, put my dish in the rack, and went for a walk. The next morning, she left a list of household items on the counter with a sticky note. "Get these today." I slid the list back to her spot and wrote, "Buy what you need." "I'll buy what I need. Shared items are on the posted schedule." She didn't respond, but later I noticed she'd bought paper towels and left them in the trunk of her car. I left them there. When she asked where they were, I said, "Where you placed them." Midweek, her mother called and asked why I was withholding kindness. I kept it short. "I'm following the standard your daughter set. She asked for space and autonomy. I'm respecting that." No extra details. I ended the call and texted my wife, "Please keep third parties out of our logistics. If they call me about our house, I'll refer them to you." She read it. No reply. That night, she brought up counseling. I said counseling only works if both people want partnership. "Do you?" I asked. She said she wanted freedom without pressure. "Then counseling isn't the tool," I said. "This system is." She called it cold. I called it clear. On Thursday, she missed a salon appointment because her car was low on gas. That evening she said, "You could have helped." I answered, "I offered help last week. You told me to treat you as fully independent. I'm doing that." She said I was holding a grudge. I said I was following instructions. She had no response. I added a quiet step for myself, a legal consultation after work. No threats, only information. I brought a copy of the mortgage, a list of shared assets, and the bullet plan. The attorney explained options for a separation agreement, if needed. I listened, asked direct questions, and left with a folder. I placed it in my safe. I didn't bring it up at home. Knowing my options made my posture even steadier. Friday, I posted the first week's household task grid. Trash nights, yard care, a Saturday laundry block for each of us, and a Sunday 15-minute check for supplies marked as truly shared, trash bags, cleaning spray, light bulbs. She tore the printout off the fridge. I printed another and taped it back up. "This isn't a dictatorship," she said. "It's a schedule," I replied. "If you want a different time, write it. If you want to opt out, then you cover the area you leave undone." She tested by leaving the kitchen a mess after a late snack. Saturday morning, I cleaned my prep area, wiped my side of the counter, and left hers untouched. At noon, I made my lunch and used my pan. Her dishes remained in the sink. By evening, she washed them. On Sunday, I sent a short calendar invite titled Joint Time Check-In, 20 minutes. I set it for 6:30 p.m. in the kitchen. She accepted. At 6:30, I asked 2 questions. Do you want a dinner together this week? Do you want a shared errand? She said she was thinking about a movie Friday, but didn't want to commit. I said I needed an answer by Wednesday night to hold a reservation. She said that felt rigid. I said it was a simple yes or no by a clear time. She said she would let me know. The meeting ended at 6:45. I washed my cup and went to my desk. Her texts started changing. Fewer jabs, more probes. Are you mad? Are we okay? I replied, I'm not angry. I'm following the plan. If you want connection, propose it with time and place. She sent dinner Tuesday. I replied, accepted. 7 o'clock, the Thai place by the office. She wrote, fine. We went. Conversation stayed surface level. We paid our own checks. We walked out. Neutral, but real. By midweek, the house felt different in a measurable way. Fewer last-minute requests. Fewer accusations. More silence. I kept the system going. I trained, worked, slept, and handled my responsibilities. On Thursday night, we passed in the hallway. She stopped and asked, do you even care if this works? I said, I care about respect. If you want a marriage, the standard is mutual effort. I won't do it alone. I won't be your parent. I won't be your backup plan. Decide what you want and say it plainly. She stared like she wanted an argument. I gave her a fact. The system continues until you propose partnership in clear terms. If you don't, I will move to a separation agreement. No drama. Just steps. She didn't answer. She walked to the bedroom and closed the door. I set my alarm and slept. I had already chosen my direction. I didn't need her to approve it. I needed to carry it out. I would continue mirroring the logic she insisted on until she either matched me in honesty or asked me to end it. By the second week, the plan produced visible results. The meal kit tied to my card didn't arrive. She asked where it was while opening the cabinet. I said I canceled optional subscriptions unless moved to personal payment. The list on the fridge covered that. She looked from the empty shelf to the paper and called it petty. I said it was the policy we agreed to by not objecting. She closed the cabinet and said nothing else. Her tone shifted to guilt. She said I had changed and that I was punishing her for wanting independence. I reminded her of the gas exchange and the earlier line about not being my mother. I said I was following the structure that matched those statements. She said I should understand her stress. I said I understood she wanted full control of her time and resources and that I was respecting that. She tried attention next. A new dress on a weeknight, perfume, a late visit to the bedroom. She asked if we could reset and start over without rules. I said I was willing to be close when we restored basic cooperation in writing and committed to minimum standards for time, money, and communication. She paused, then said I was turning intimacy into a contract. I said marriage already was a contract, and we were simply honoring it. She left the room without another word. 2 days later, her card declined at the salon. She called from the parking lot and asked me to read off my number. I said I don't share card numbers and offered 2 options. I could transfer a small, documented loan through the bank app, or she could reschedule. She said I was embarrassing her. I said I was protecting both of us from confusion about money. She hung up. That night she said I cared more about rules than about her feelings. I repeated that I cared about respect, and that respect is measurable through clear actions. Her mother reached out again and said I should stop making life hard. I responded in one sentence. We are each managing what we use, and I am open to restoring joint systems when there is mutual effort. The call ended quickly. The next round was blame. She said to a friend on speaker that I was withholding support to prove a point. I was in the kitchen prepping lunch. I walked to the fridge, pointed to the bullet list, and said I was following the posted terms. The friend went quiet. After the call, my wife said I was making her look bad. I said I was reading commitments we already posted. She then tried urgency. At noon she texted, I need your car tonight. I replied, it's in use. If you need mine, propose a swap with time and return details by 3 o'clock. At 3:18 she wrote, never mind. Her sister dropped by on Saturday. The house was clean, the schedule was on the fridge, and our budget folders sat on the table. My wife complained about the grid. I opened the folder and showed the dated email and the printed schedule. I explained that any change is welcome if written and mutually accepted. Her sister asked my wife what she preferred. My wife said she just wanted me to stop being rigid. Her sister asked for her version of a plan. No answer came. The visit ended early. That evening my wife tried a softer pitch. She said we could delete the schedule and go back to how things were. I asked her to define how things were. She said we would figure it out day by day. I said day by day was what created this problem and that we needed a baseline to prevent confusion. She said the baseline felt like control. I said the baseline prevented control by either person because it was visible and specific. The week exposed who carried which loads. Trash went out on time when assigned. Dishes stayed until the owner handled them. Groceries appeared on each shelf in proportion to who bought them. There were no arguments because there was nothing to debate. If something wasn't done, the name next to it was obvious. She started completing her blocks late at night, rushing to catch up. When she finished, she announced it aloud. I said thank you and marked it complete. She expected more recognition. I stuck to the checklist. On Tuesday, she asked to talk in the living room. She said the system had made her anxious. I said the system only recorded reality and that anxiety came from misalignment, not from the record. She asked if I wanted this marriage to survive. I said yes, if the terms are adult terms. She asked what that meant in plain words. I said daily respect, scheduled time, clean money, and no third-party referees. I added that we could set measurable targets for the next 30 days and review them on a fixed date. She said targets made her feel watched. I said targets made us both accountable. On Wednesday, the streaming login on her tablet failed. She asked for the password. I said it was on my device plan and offered to help her set up her own account with a discount code I had from work. She said I was being cheap. I said I was being consistent. She set up her own account that night. The next morning, she asked me to help connect it to the TV. I did it in 3 minutes, handed her the remote, and returned to my call. By the next weekend, her efforts to draw me into old patterns had lost force. Guilt led nowhere because I kept responses short and neutral. Seduction led nowhere without commitments. Accusations ended when shown the schedule. Panic texts got the same 2 options each time: propose clearly or handle independently. There were no raised voices in the house. There were only visible choices and their outcomes. Late Sunday night, she came to the doorway and asked if I still meant what I said about a separation agreement. I said I would proceed if there was no written commitment to rebuild. I told her exactly what that commitment required: shared calendar blocks, a weekly budget check, and a rule that no one dismisses the other with phrases about parenting roles. She didn't answer. She stood there, then said, I need to think. I said, take the time you need. The system continues. The next morning, she sent a calendar invite for a 30-minute meeting after work. Title: Terms. I accepted. She arrived 10 minutes late, sat down, and said she wanted to try, but not under a scoreboard. I said I wasn't running a contest. I was running a plan. I slid a 1-page draft across the table. She read it and tapped the bullet about 2-day notice for joint plans. She said she hated deadlines. I said deadlines protect both people from last-minute pressure. She said she would get back to me by Friday. Days earlier, she had pushed, tested, and played to an audience. Now she was quiet, reading, and calculating. Friends stopped calling me because they no longer had a story to repeat. Her parents asked fewer questions. The house ran on written agreements and personal responsibility. The result was not warm, but it was stable. If she wanted more than stability, the next move had to be hers, in writing and on time. She said she would get back to me by Friday. I set a reminder for 5 p.m. and went on with the week. Work was busy. I kept the house schedule in place. I didn't change anything to force an outcome. If she wanted a marriage on adult terms, this was the moment to state it plainly. Friday came. At 3:12 p.m., she texted a question about dinner. I replied that dinner was separate unless she confirmed the plan we discussed. No reply. At 4:47, a second text. Can we talk tomorrow? I answered that the deadline was today. At 5:08, she wrote, I need more time. I sent 1 line. If terms aren't clear today, I will proceed with separation steps on Monday. There were no more messages. I kept my weekend routine. Gym, groceries, laundry. She moved through the house quietly, as if a careful tone could replace a decision. Saturday afternoon, she asked if we could do counseling first. I said counseling works when both people agree on standards. I asked again if she agreed to the written items, scheduled time blocks, a weekly budget check, direct communication, and no parent role remarks. She repeated that it felt restrictive. I said the absence of standards had already harmed us. She asked for patience. I said patience without progress is a stall. She walked away. On Sunday, I drafted a short separation framework. It covered temporary finances, a calendar for property use, and rules for communication. I kept it factual. I printed 2 copies and placed them in a folder on my desk. I didn't present it then. I waited to see if she would meet the Friday commitment late with full clarity. She didn't. Monday at lunch, I met with the attorney who had reviewed our documents. We filed for a formal separation with a proposed schedule. I asked for nothing punitive. I asked for stability and boundaries. The house for her with her covering all household costs during the term, my rental paid by me, split insurance, and a weekly exchange time for any items either of us needed. I authorized the attorney to send the packet at 4 p.m. At 4:28, my phone buzzed. She wrote, "I saw the email. You really did it." I replied, "I followed what I said I would do." She asked if I wanted to end the marriage. I said I wanted a marriage based on mutual respect. I told her that if she signed the separation, we would have space to decide without chaos. If she wanted to withdraw the separation later and return with a signed set of commitments, I would consider it. My focus was the standard, not the status. That evening, I packed essentials: 2 suitcases, work files, toiletries, gym gear, and the tools I actually use. I left furniture, appliances, and anything connected to the house. I photographed each room for inventory and emailed the files to my attorney. I wrote a short note and placed it on the kitchen counter: keys, mailing address for the rental, and my availability windows for calls related to logistics. No emotion on paper, just what she needed to know. Before I left, she stood in the doorway and asked if I hated her. I said I didn't. I said I hated disrespect and would not live with it. She asked if there was any way to pause this. I said there was, but it required a signed commitment that matched the plan we had already discussed. She asked for a day. I said a day was available with a clear answer by 6 p.m. tomorrow. She nodded. I left. The rental was quiet. I set up a small desk, made a basic meal, and answered work emails. I changed my emergency contact on the remaining forms that still listed her. I sent my brother the address. I slept well and went to the gym before work. At 5:07 the next day, she texted, "I'm not ready to sign rules." The phrase told me everything. I replied with one line, "Understood." Then I called the attorney and confirmed we would move forward with the separation timeline. Her parents called that evening. Her mother asked if I could give more time. I said I had already given time and structure. Over the next week, the benefits of clarity showed up in small ways. There were no late-night arguments or sudden requests. She sent 2 messages about furniture and a delivery window. I answered with times I was available. On Thursday, she sent a longer message. She wrote that she missed me, that she wanted to feel close again, and that the schedule made her feel boxed in. She did not offer a plan. I read it twice and set the phone down. An hour later, I replied, "If you want closeness, document the structure that protects it. Without structure, we repeat the same cycle. If you want a sign, send a time to meet." She sent a heart emoji. Friday afternoon, my attorney confirmed the temporary orders were filed and a date was set for a status conference. I forwarded the email to her and asked if she preferred to attend or handle through counsel. She said she would handle through counsel. That was an adult decision. I acknowledged it. The weekend passed without contact. I deep cleaned the rental, updated my training plan, and scheduled a visit with my brother. On Sunday night, I packed a small bag for a short work trip and checked my route to the airport. My phone buzzed at 10:41 p.m. She wrote, "I'll sign the plan if you cancel the separation." I answered, "Sign first. Then we will schedule a meeting with counsel to discuss next steps." She asked if I could trust her word. I said I trusted signatures and calendars. Monday morning, I left for the airport. While waiting at the gate, I looked at the last 6 months as cleanly as I could. The marriage had moved from coordination to contempt. When I mirrored her logic, the truth surfaced quickly. She wanted flexibility without accountability. I wanted respect with proof. The gap was not a misunderstanding. It was a choice. On Wednesday night, a scanned PDF arrived from her attorney. It was the separation, signed. No note attached. I read it carefully and countersigned. Then I added a final page, an optional reconciliation framework with the same 4 items and a date line left blank. I sent it back through counsel. If she ever wanted a real marriage, she would have to fill that line with a date and show up. If she never did, we were already on a clean path out. I returned to the rental, set my suitcase by the wall, and made dinner. The phone stayed face down. I wasn't waiting for a message to tell me who I was. That part had been settled the moment I stopped participating in my own erosion. She reached out 3 days later at 11:03 p.m. I miss you. Can we talk? I let the screen dim and went to bed. In the morning, I sent the same answer I had given since the beginning. If you want to talk, bring terms. There was no reply. Respect is not a slogan. It is a standard backed by actions. I protected my dignity and gave her a fair path back. She chose not to take it, so I kept walking.
Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments, and do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel.